Orlando spent $200 million redesigning International Drive and somehow made it worse. The city that hosts 75 million tourists a year can't figure out how to build a single walkable neighborhood for the people who actually live there. Everything outside Disney's gates feels like an afterthought. Because it is. When Walt Disney bought 27,000 acres of swampland in the 1960s, he didn't just build a theme park, he built a parallel government. For decades, the Reedy Creek Improvement District gave Disney its own roads, utilities, and building codes completely separate from the city itself. Orlando responded by building its entire identity around the mouse. Hotels, highways, convention centers. All funneling toward the parks. Residents got strip malls and 6-lane stroads where pedestrians are basically target practice. iDrive is a 14-mile corridor of tourist traps with one of the highest pedestrian fatality rates in Florida. You've probably seen it. 6 lanes, no crosswalks, 50 miles per hour traffic right next to families walking to dinner. The people who clean those hotel rooms and serve theme park food, they commute from an hour away because nothing near their jobs is affordable. Orlando doesn't have a city center. It has a theme park with a city attached. Austin used to be weird. Now it's just expensive and half empty. The city that attracted tech workers with live music and breakfast tacos overbuilt so aggressively that apartment vacancy rates hit levels not seen in decades. Home prices dropped roughly 26% from their 2022 peak in some zip codes. Entire luxury apartment towers opened with floors sitting completely empty. Developers kept stacking luxury units nobody asked for while longtime residents got priced out of their own neighborhoods one by one. Congress Avenue looks great on Instagram, but the streets behind it are hollowing out fast. The famous 6th Street district is surrounded by stalled construction projects and for-lease signs that multiply every month. Austin's public transit is a single commuter rail line that connects downtown to a suburb. That's it. If your city's whole identity was the affordable, creative alternative, and you destroyed both the affordability and the creativity, what exactly are you selling? A really expensive traffic jam on I-35. The musicians who made Austin cool can't afford to live there anymore. Let that sink in. Dubai built the tallest building on Earth, but couldn't connect it to a proper sewer system at launch. For years, trucks hauled waste away from the Burj Khalifa because the infrastructure couldn't keep up with the ambition. The city hits 50 degrees Celsius in summer. Walking outside isn't just uncomfortable, it's physically dangerous. Yet they designed a sprawling car-dependent metropolis where the nearest grocery store is a 15-minute drive from most residential towers. The metro covers a small fraction of the urban area. Everyone else sits in traffic on Sheikh Zayed Road, a 12-lane highway where crossing on foot feels like a survival game. Around 85% of residents are temporary foreign workers with no voting rights and no permanent residency path. Dubai's economy runs on tourism and real estate speculation. If visitors stop coming, the whole model collapses overnight. They built ski slopes in the desert while burning enough energy to power small countries. That's not city planning. That's a vanity project with a skyline. Charlotte added roughly 200,000 people in the last decade and built almost nothing to move them around. The city has one light rail line, one. For a metro area approaching 2.7 million people, everything else is highways and hope. New developments pop up 30 miles from uptown with no transit connection and a single road in or out. Miss your exit on I-77? Enjoy a 25-minute detour through identical subdivisions where every house looks copy-pasted from the same catalog. The city keeps annexing surrounding land and pushing outward instead of building any real density. Property taxes from those new suburbs barely cover the cost of extending water, sewer, and roads to reach them. Charlotte is growing faster than it can plan, and if you've ever sat in traffic on Independence Boulevard at 5 p.m., you already know that. The infrastructure debt is piling up quietly. Somebody's going to pay for it eventually. Nashville was the it city for about 5 years, and now it's paying the bill. Broadway turned into a tourist conveyor belt of neon signs and pedal taverns. Housing costs jumped over 40% since 2019 in some neighborhoods. The city's entire public transit plan got voted down in 2018, so your only option is sitting in traffic on Suwarniyad 24 or paying for a rideshare. They approved $1 billion stadium while residents begged for basic sidewalks in their own neighborhoods. Entire historically black communities got displaced for luxury condos and boutique hotels nobody from the neighborhood could afford. Nashville marketed itself as a destination without building the infrastructure for the people who already lived there. Now locals can't afford the city they made famous. Sound familiar? San Francisco's downtown looks like a ghost town wearing a designer suit. Office vacancy hit roughly 37% in 2024. That's the highest in the city's modern history. The tech exodus during the pandemic hollowed out entire neighborhoods almost overnight. Market Street, once the city's commercial backbone, now has stretches where every other storefront sits dark and locked. San Francisco charges some of the highest commercial rents in America for buildings nobody wants to lease. Tax revenue is cratering because empty offices generate almost nothing for the city budget. BART ridership still hasn't fully recovered to pre-pandemic numbers. The city bet everything on being the tech capital of the world, and when companies went remote, there was no backup plan. No plan B. Nothing. Housing is still absurdly expensive even as the population shrinks. You're paying over $2,500 a month for a studio in a city that can't keep its own downtown breathing. Phoenix keeps building like water is infinite. It's not. The city sprawls across 500 square miles of desert, adding subdivisions 40 miles from downtown where summer temperatures regularly top 115 degrees Fahrenheit. The Colorado River supplies about 40% of the city's water, and Lake Mead has dropped to levels that triggered federal shortage declarations. Phoenix's response? Keep approving housing developments and figure out the water situation later. The heat island effect makes the urban core 10 to 15 degrees hotter than surrounding desert. Roads literally buckle in the summer. Bus stops have zero shade. People have been hospitalized just from touching metal handrails at transit stations. The light rail covers 28 miles in a metro area spanning over 14,000 square miles. That's not public transit. That's a suggestion. Every year the city breaks its own record for consecutive days above 110 degrees, and every year they approve another master-planned community on the edge of nothing. Houston learned nothing from Harvey. The 2017 hurricane dumped around 60 inches of rain and caused about $125 billion in damage. The city responded by continuing to build on flood-prone land. No zoning laws means developers put whatever they want, wherever they want, and they love cheap floodplain property. Houston paved over roughly 30% of its wetlands since the 1990s. Those wetlands were nature's sponge for absorbing stormwater runoff. Now every major storm turns subdivisions into lakes. The drainage system was designed decades ago for a much smaller city. Billions have gone into flood control projects that engineers say still won't be enough for the next big storm. And in the Gulf Coast, the next big storm is always coming. If you live in a city that keeps building on floodplains and wonders why it floods, you already know how this story ends. Atlanta has been fighting traffic for 30 years, and when traffic is winning. The metro area covers roughly 8,700 square miles with some of the worst commute times in America. MARTA, the transit system, serves only 3 of the region's 29 counties because suburban governments refuse to opt in. So millions of commuters have exactly one option: the car. I-285, the perimeter highway, is a 64-mile loop of permanent, unrelenting gridlock. Atlanta keeps widening highways and watching them fill up immediately. Induced demand is not a theory. It's documented fact. More lanes always mean more cars. Always. The city that hosted the Olympics still can't figure out how to move people efficiently. Average commute times keep climbing year after year despite billions poured into highway expansion projects that solve absolutely nothing. Las Vegas is a desert city slowly running out of desert. The Colorado River supplies roughly 90% of the metro area's water, and that river is shrinking fast. Lake Mead has dropped over 180 feet from its historical peak. Now here's the thing. The city has actually done impressive conservation work, recycling nearly all indoor water back to the reservoir. But outdoor use keeps growing with every new subdivision, every new resort, every new golf course built on sand. The population has more than doubled since 2000. You can only conserve so much when you keep adding demand faster than you save it. Vegas sits in the driest corner of the driest state in America, and it's still growing like rain is guaranteed. At some point, the math stops working. Nobody wants to talk about when that point arrives. So what's the pattern here? Growth without transit, sprawl without water, tourism without residents. Every city on this list made the same bet. Build fast, plan later, and hope the problems sort themselves out. They never do, but eventually the concrete catches up to you. If your city made this list, drop a comment, like and subscribe for more urban reality checks.